It's good morning, Victoria Brownlee. Welcome to Yellow Shelf for the first time.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Your book, which I've read, lucky me, The Writer's Retreat, yay, it's available for pre-order, but it's pretty much going to be out by the time we get this interview out.
Yes,
Congratulations. You are a
thank you.
seasoned author, so there's,
Ah,
you know, plenty in your vault, but tell us all about your latest book.
okay, so The Writer's Retreat is the story of Kat, who is an Australian author who's struggling to write her second book. And so, sort of like after a bit of rejection and a bit of back and forth with her publisher, she on a whim books a trip to France, which is very out of character for her. So she books a spot on a 2 week writer's retreat, which is in Provence, in the south of France. And she is planning to go there and just focus on her writing and get a new manuscript.
And Victoria, tell us about, like, when I was reading this, I was thinking, wow, so many authors that I've spoken to go to writers' retreats. And I was thinking how this story could actually happen. So, do you want to tell us about what inspired you to write this particular book and obviously your journey writing?
Well, it's funny. I think there's actually a few different points that converged to come to this. So, for me, this is the third book I wrote, but it's the fourth that will be published. So we can come back to that later. But so this is book number three, and I actually so I moved to France in 2016, and I went on a writer's retreat myself. So I'd been living in China for a couple of years. I'd been working as a food editor for a magazine, so crazy timelines, lots of nonfiction. But I had started writing a fiction manuscript about a girl who moves to Paris to eat a lot of cheese, essentially. And so I went on a writer's retreat to focus on that. And that I spent, it was a month-long writer's retreat. So it was a pretty decadent experience.
Yeah.
And on like while on the retreat, I met a few different people, and it was surprising, I guess, who actually can take a month to go and focus on their writing, what types of people, and also what their ambitions were as a writer or, as someone hoping to become a writer. So I think there was that experience that sort of was sitting in the back of my mind. And then, so I went on to publish the book about the girl and the cheese, which was Fromage à Trois, and then a sequel to that. And then we just entered the pandemic, so our first lockdown in France, which was meant to be 2 weeks. So we have a house down in Provence in the Luberon. And so we'd gone there, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to write something that was set over a period of 2 weeks? And I sort of used the lockdown to mirror the experience, and also just to bring a bit more company and life into what was a very insular experience for us. As you know, I have my daughter and my husband, but otherwise it was just the three of us, and we were really bored. So I created all these characters, and then the retreat setting, which was in the Luberon, so it was all very visceral to me. I was able to feel being there.
Yeah.
So I think that the writing experience, the writer's retreat experience, coupled with the situation of being in that 2 week lockdown isolated space, sort of converged to create what has become the writer's retreat.
Yeah. And Victoria, the book's described as a crime thriller. Do you think that's fair? Is that how you would genre the book?
I think the genre is a really interesting it's sort of hard to put down thing. And the beautiful thing about Affirm Press is that they do publish in sort of genre bending ways. It's not always very specific to a genre, and I love that. And I love, the idea that nothing has to be specific to any one genre. And I enjoy reading that myself. So I think
Me too.
writing it felt fun. I don't think it's a deep dark thriller.
Yeah. No.
There's a few relationship stories intertwined. There's a lot of food in the book, and I think food is obviously a passion of mine, and I wanted to intertwine that into the story. But yeah, there's a bit of a mystery going on, and then there's a little
Yeah.
the action amps up at the end. Let's just say.
Sounds good. And Victoria, um, are you going to keep writing? Like, is this the plan for you to, as ideas come, is that what you'd love to do as an author?
think, Look, I think authors who get beyond that first book, I think there's always something itching inside them to keep writing. I have, there's always ideas bumping around in your head. It's hard to say whether the thriller genre is something I'll stick with. I think it's really fun. I had a lot more fun, finishing this book and going through the editorial process than I thought I would have. So I think it's definitely opened up some doors I think when I started writing, that was a decade ago, and I didn't really have the capability or the desire to be mean to my characters. And now apparently I do, which is really great.
Yeah.
If people have to die in a book, they have to die. So yeah, I think it has opened some
Yeah.
doors. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So good to hear. Victoria, if we're watching anywhere in the world and we're curious about you, we're curious about the book, you're on Instagram. I know you've got a really good website that actually visualizes your previous work, but you point us in the direction of where people should go if they're curious.
Yeah, so victoriabrownlee.com. There's a contact me form if you want to say anything good or bad, that's fine. Otherwise on
Only good.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, no. Otherwise, definitely on Instagram. I'm on there all the time, mostly spruiking this book. But you can also, there's a link in the bio to my previous books and my previous work. And yeah, some of my work as a food editor is up there too, even though
Yeah.
it's starting to look a little old, which is funny. Time seems to go quicker than we
It
want it
does,
to, doesn't
doesn't
it?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Victoria, all the best. Enjoy the launch, the journey. Exciting times when a book is launched. I know there's lots
I,
of
it,
great events that you're involved with. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll put in the show notes how to connect with you and the book. All the best. I'd love you to come back when more books come out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Victoria. Cheers.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me
Bye.
on the show.